This is Sessions with Coach. I'm your flight instructor, Coach Gaines. Thank you for tuning in for streaming thoughts of consciousness from the mind and the experience of Coach. This particular session, I want to talk about closure. And closure is a bit of a cliche term or word. It's thrown around a lot. But I think that we need to really examine what that means in relationships. And I noticed that, people really don't have a problem with just moving on, moving forward, cutting people off, boycotting even, throwing shade to one another. And it's done for a multiple of reasons. Or it may just be a thing where as though you just feel a funny vibe and you just like, you know what, I'm not really, I'm not into this person, or this is not what I thought, this is not what I expected. But when you come in contact with somebody and they come in your path, that was destined. And you have a trust with everybody you come in contact with. And there's an ongoing conversation that, can go on for years, or it can stop, at right after hi and hello and bye. It can end. But closure is ultimately the key to moving forward or to understanding the relationship in this entirety. So, we get these memes coming across the timeline that say, if you notice this from a person, or you notice that from a person, get away from them. Or this means this type of person, or that means that type of person. And when I at first I used to listen to those texts and those memes, those advices, even those podcasts that being a better version of yourself, finding righteous companionship, getting away from evil companionship, and all of these different things. And I think that this is really good advice. Like, this can really protect your heart. It can protect your soul. It can protect your wealth and your well-being, having this level of discernment. And it's real. It's a real tool that must be used. But closure, you have time in with a person. You shared things. You've taken on certain goals and you share certain common challenges and you try to work together and problem solve those things. Or you have an emotional attachment. Maybe somebody is dependent on another person for a level of emotional support. So you may be in a space where you might need to get away from somebody, but the person may need you in that type of way. And unless you provide the closure or you give a certain level of explanation to why, or just some insight so that they won't be left hanging or left wondering or left doubting or digressing from whatever it is that they benefited from you. Because ultimately, if you're moving away from them because they're no benefit, you must have been pouring into them and they weren't receiving it, or they weren't able to, reciprocate it, or whatever the case may be. So closure. And this idea of ghosting each other, this idea of just going cold and just going silent on one another. I'm also guilty for this. Sometimes I get frustrated, and before I expose my shortcomings and lose my self-control or whatever, I'd rather just fade away. Or if it's something that I can't explain, sometimes I just leave it understood, or leave it left ununderstood. And all of this stuff goes against the proper closure. And the dignity of individuals deserves that. If there's somebody that, you had a relationship with at one time in your life, and you've changed, or that individual has changed, or circumstances have changed, or it might not even be about the individual. You might just be going through something internally, communicating that and letting individuals in on what some of this of what you're going through can really help to preserve community. Because every friendship that we have is part and parcel to a larger collective of community. So if I'm in a communal setting and I go from this set of people to that set of people to that set of people, and ultimately, there's moving on, and ultimately there's getting away from who has no benefit, you'll end up by yourself. You'll end up on an island because everybody ultimately lives in the same community. So there's a right that we're all owed to each other, even if we're not on the everyday speaking terms. We deserve closure. We deserve humility. So I was thinking about this a lot, and I'm like, and I'm guilty for this myself. Like, I really am. Like, sometimes I might go years and might realize, like, that guy, man, subhanAllah, where'd a brother go? Or what happened to the sister, whatever the case may be. And I've been, as I'm getting older, I've been trying to, pay more attention, not be so heedless to that, and look back and say, with that, who did I leave behind? Who did I ignore? What's going on, or if there's something that there's a challenge between me and an individual, or if there's something that I just can't get over, what is the best way of trying to, break the ice and figure out how we can get to some type of normalcy, because ultimately we're in the same community. And I thought that was profound to even like realize that, because I'm realizing where's the breakdown in all of these friendships, all of these, relationships, all of these marriages. So we'll be able to come back to one another. We'll be able to revisit, circle the block even, if when we part ways in a handsome manner, in a just manner. Everybody doesn't have to walk and talk on the phone every single day intimately and share all of their intimate secrets. You don't have to be like that to be somebody's close friend. Sometimes it's just being there when they need you, and everybody has their levels of friendship that they need to hold on to. But whatever level that is, if you don't have the same energy or the same passion or the same regard for that particular relationship, provide the proper closure. Don't leave somebody idle. Don't leave somebody on red, because that causes another compounded issue that really should be avoided. And this is where, we get this tension and this resentment amongst one another. And people start calling it hate. Oh, he hating on him. He hating on him. It's like, it's not that simple. Like, nobody's just coming outside just mad at everything that looks better than them. It's not like that. But you start to involve yourself and you believe in things and you have expectations. And when those things aren't met and when those things are, misappropriated, it causes and it builds up a certain feeling. Now, a person might not know what he did. He might not even realize what he did. Some people it was a brother that I just realized that, like, wow, I seen him. He kind of like, he saw me, he left. All right, boom. Seen him again. I noticed we don't really call. I called him. He was real quick. I'm like, wow. It left me like really, perplexed and confused. Like, wow, like, what did I do? And if I really did something, the person will not get a rectification. The person won't get, the issue resolved if he doesn't say anything about it. He just holds it in himself. So that's another problem. So if we can look at each other with more empathy and realize that everything that you're trying to get away from people and everything that you feel like can hurt you and your spirit and your frequency, everything that you feel like is a problem for you with people, just know you are also a problem for somebody else, because we all have our shortcomings. And it's really hard to hide all your shortcomings all day long, every week, every month, every year. Eventually, your shortcomings are going to come out. And those people that are closest to you are the ones that are supposed to be able to absorb that, be patient with that, understand that, and help you get better with that. But leaving you and isolating you, or cutting you off or throwing you shade, that's going to drive you further away if they want you to get better. And I like to use the drug culture as a good example. When somebody in the family, they look at the individual like they might have a substance abuse, and everybody gets away from them. They don't invite them to nothing anymore. They treat them like they're sub-level, Well, this right here is what is going to keep them out in the street. This is what's going to drive them further away, because it's the family comfort. It's the comfort that's missing. So we have to have some balance. And if the person does need to hear, like, look, man, you know, I don't want to be around you for these particular reasons, or this is what happened. It is better to communicate that so that the person can think about, okay, this is why this person don't want to deal with me no more. You know what? If I want to be back in this person's life, or if this is something that I feel like is a concern or something that's relevant or relative, you know what? I'm going to work on that. And I'm going to look at the individual from a loving perspective. Like, wow, you know what? He had the heart to tell me, and then they had the heart to actually, regardless of what money I spend, regardless of what benefit I bring, what connects I have, when he says, look, man, I just don't want to deal with you, or, you know, I just feel like, you got to get some things together. He's not, or you're not still trying to lean and get benefit at the same time, justify not, being as forthcoming and transparent with the individual. You have to choose, so if you really want this person to get better, what they do for you, you also have to, boycott that, and then you have to communicate to them. And if you leaving them alone or getting away from them is something that is going to cause them to destroy themselves even more, if you love them, you have to understand what they needed from you in that friendship. Because the friendship came together upon a duality, a dual need. So it needs closure. It don't need just a change of a phone number. It doesn't need, not picking up the phone. It doesn't need quick, abrupt, I don't really want to talk anymore after you had intimate, long walks and long conversations and you shared everything. And it's like, wow, so don't leave people like that, because that can come around in a negative way. And then the most important thing, it gets in the way of the idea of community. And everybody in the community is not going to get along, but there has to be a mutual respect and an empathy for each and everybody's situation. And everybody's come into community from different paths and different walks of life. So all of that needs to be understood. And we need to be genuine when we say we love and we care for one another. People throw the word love around loosely. I met a guy cut my hair. He saw how I was talking to my son. We had a good little conversation. By the end of the cut, he like, man, he's like, I love you, bruh. And I get it. I love you too, bro. I'm gonna say I love you too, but we're throwing it around. We're not really meaning it either way when we say it in return or when we throw it out there. And it shows in how we treat one another. So this is Sessions with Coach. I just want us to pay attention to this word love. And love, and it's not like KRS-One, love is gonna get you. I love my car, I love this, I love that. No, because loving an individual is more spiritual than it is monetary. We just make it monetary because we're always trying to get close to a bag or get close to something that looks good, or we're always trying to get close to something. But do we love it for the correct reasons? Are we giving it a true and honest love when we express that? So just keep that in mind. We all have to have discernment, and that's today's word. We have to know how to pick and choose our friends. But once we've had a friendship and we've had a relationship and we've had a bond and we're locked in with each other, and your heart changes, because Allah is in control of the hearts. Your heart can change towards somebody real overnight. Give the person the respect and the dignity for the proper closure, and you'll get the results you're looking for. This is Sessions with Coach. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.